You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. It has been a really busy 24 hours for LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock. Of course, Mike Denbrock yesterday was up in Fayetteville for the Broyles Award ceremony. Phil Parker, the DC from Iowa, ended up winning it, unfortunately. But Mike Denbrock was a very deserving finalist. And apparently after Mike Denbrock flew home from Arkansas, he and his family had to have a pretty long conversation about an offer on the table. And apparently that offer came from an SEC rival. Our friends over at Football Scoop reported that Mike Denbrock had an offer from Texas A&M to become the Aggies OC. That was reported earlier today by Football Scoop. And according to Zach Barnett over at Football Scoop, the Aggies were prepared to make Mike Denbrock the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. So when Denbrock first got hired at LSU, he signed a 3-year contract that paid him an average of $1.5 a year. So he was this year making $1.4 million. That was his salary this year at LSU. For what it's worth, the highest paid OCs in the country are Garrett Riley at Clemson and Ryan Grubb at Washington, each making right at $2 million per year. So this would have, according to Football Scoop, the deal that A&M offered Mike Denbrock would have taken him north of $2 million per year. Well, LSU wasn't having it. And our buddy Ross Dellinger, now over at Yahoo, reported this morning that LSU finalizing a 3-year extension to retain offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock. Of course, was a Broyles Award finalist, led the top-ranked offense in the country, and helped develop Jaden Daniels into a Heisman finalist, which we know on Saturday will be a Heisman winner. So that's fantastic news. Bit of a whirlwind here. A couple of things on this. Many people had asked, really since the offense had gotten going this year, if Mike Denbrock were a flight risk. Like, could he be hired away somewhere else? And I think most, when they asked that question, assumed that he'd be targeted as a head coach. And the thing that I pretty consistently said was, I can't see a scenario where Mike Denbrock gets a head coaching opportunity that would pull him away from Baton Rouge. Here's what I mean. And it's not to say Mike Denbrock wouldn't be a great head coach or couldn't be. But Denbrock is 59 years old, and it is rare, if not altogether unseen, to see a coach pushing 60 get his first head coaching opportunity. Typically, at this point, you are labeled a career assistant. That's not to say Mike Denbrock wouldn't want a head coaching opportunity. I was told last year that Denbrock was one of the people who was asked about the Cincinnati opening. Remember, he came to Baton Rouge from Cincinnati. Luke Fickell left Cincinnati to take the Wisconsin job. When that came open, there was at least some top-level conversation, some surface-level conversation about that. So it's not to say he wouldn't be interested, but remember when Brent Venables was a great assistant at Oklahoma for so many years, goes to Clemson there with Dabo, and the thing about Venables was just always that he was just going to be this great defensive coordinator. He never got his opportunity. Well, Lincoln Riley takes the SC job, and Venables gets his first head coaching opportunity at Oklahoma. And that was an outlier. Venables was 50 when he got the OU job. Denbrock's 59. Again, I'm not suggesting, this isn't like an ageist statement. It's just the fact of the matter when you look at the market for hiring coaches in college football. It's just kind of the way it goes. You don't see 60-year-old coaches get their first head coaching opportunity. So I didn't see, and by the way, that's not to say Denbrock wouldn't have an opportunity to be a head coach at a smaller school, maybe a G5 or something like that. But for example, Mike Denbrock, his $1.4 million this year was more than Blake Anderson got at Utah State, who made $1.375. Trent Dilfer, the head coach at UAB, made $1.3 this year. Brady Hoke, the head coach at San Diego State, made $1.273. My point is, yeah, you could leave LSU to go be a head coach at a smaller school and make less money at a smaller school and start over and move your family. So it just, there didn't seem like there would be a real appealing spot there for Mike Denbrock to leave to be a head coach. And if someone was going to pull him away to be an OC, I didn't see how that would be possible, that LSU would let Mike Denbrock get away. And so we've seen that. Now, I will say also, I have heard whispers about NFL interest. Now, keep in mind, there are two NFL teams right now that don't have an offensive coordinator. Pittsburgh fired Matt Canada, who had been at LSU, and Buffalo fired Ken Dorsey, promoted Joe Brady as an interim OC, who also had been at LSU, as we know. But I don't know that there's great interest for Denbrock to go to the NFL, how serious that was. I just know that there was conversations there. A&M, a school like A&M would have made the most sense if Denbrock were going to leave. They were going to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. So Denbrock's making, just for consideration, Denbrock making 1.4 this year at LSU. Matt House is making 1.8. Matt House and that awful defense was making almost $500,000 more per year than Mike Denbrock's making. So, I could see where he would look and say, yeah, I could go, get a 33% raise there, about 40% raise on my salary, still coach in the SEC, have all these resources, all that sort of stuff, and going to A&M where Mike Elko is a defensive-minded head coach. Denbrock would have, in theory, just been the offensive head coach, right? He would just had carte blanche to run the offense. So if he was going to leave, and by the way, they did not cross paths, Elko and Denbrock at Notre Dame. Denbrock's last season at Notre Dame was 2016. Elko's first season at Notre Dame was 2017. So they missed each other by a year, but clearly there's a familiarity there. So if Denbrock were going to leave LSU, this would have been the kind of opportunity that would have made the most sense. But LSU did what they had to do. They stepped up. They've offered him an extension, a 3-year extension, according to Ross Dellinger, the financial terms of which we'll learn, but my guess is it's going to push $2 million. And LSU did what you had to do. You have good assistants. You find ways to keep them and keep them happy. The other part of that, understand how important that continuity is. Brian Kelly met with reporters on Tuesday morning and talked about that continuity in the staff and how important that is. Do you have that one, Muse, where he talked about the continuity in the staff? Because here it is. It's number 14, if you would. Listen to Brian Kelly, because you're 2 years in now, and you're probably going to have some staff turnover on defense.
You're 2 years
Go ahead. That's fine.
You've developed a culture within your program, a way to communicate, a routine, habits, things that you want your leadership to espouse on a day-to-day basis. You have to factor those in terms of making a decision. But you also have to factor in the play of your defense. And are there things that are correctable, right, under that leadership? Are there things that are not correctable? So all of that has to be considered when making those kinds of decisions.
So keep in mind, he was obviously asked about the defensive side. We all understand that, but the message remains the same. LSU went from Steve Ensminger in 2020 to Jake Peetz in 2021 to Mike Denbrock in 2022. You had 3 different OCs in 3 years, 3 different coaches, 3 different sets of terminology, 3 different approaches and how to call a game to work with your players. So yeah, having that continuity absolutely matters, especially because you're going to have turnover at the most important position in team sports at quarterback when you're going to lose the Heisman Trophy winner. So if you can maintain this structure with Denbrock and hopefully Joe Sloan as well, Sloan's a guy who is going to get opportunities to be an OC, to be a head coach. Like that's going to happen for Joe Sloan. I mean, his fingerprints are all over this offense as well, and with Jaden Daniels and the success he had at Louisiana Tech. So you expect that to happen. But if you can keep your OC in place for as long as you can, you absolutely do it. So this is massive news for LSU to keep Mike Denbrock. Not only because you're keeping him away from Texas A&M, I should say, not only because you're keeping him in Baton Rouge, which is the most significant, but you're also keeping him away from Texas A&M, where not only would it weaken you, create instability at LSU, but it would strengthen Texas A&M, which is at a very weak point right now. So the Aggies came a-calling. LSU did what they had to do to keep Mike Denbrock in place with a new 3-year extension. And that type of stability on the offensive side looked like it's going to continue. And mostly, while I'm thrilled for LSU to be able to keep Mike Denbrock, I'm also very happy for Mike Denbrock, who is very similar to Steve Ensminger in the respect that they're career assistants that in a industry that is upwardly mobile, where coaches are always looking to take that next step to advance their career and are generally very vocal about it because it's how you advance. Denbrock, like Ensminger, are guys that are super content to coach ball, to love the players they coach, to be good, to teach them not only football, but also how to be good men and husband and fathers and things like that. And it's so evident when you watch Mike Denbrock work with the players. They love him. So for all those reasons, a guy that's a genuinely good guy, good man, great coach, getting his just due, being a finalist for the Broyles Award, becoming very likely the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country, having a Heisman Trophy winner, all the success this year with leading, the NCAA in yards, total offense, yards per play, scoring, all that sort of stuff. It's he's worthy of the accolades and the praise, and certainly of the contract. And I'm happy for him. So LSU will retain Mike Denbrock after the Aggies came and tried to pluck him away. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.